So I'm pretty sure I've made it clear by now that I've been a fan of the Kingdom Hearts franchise ever since I was a kid. And while I love a lot of stuff from these games, there are certain mechanics that they will add in from game to game that have really bothered me. And that's what we're going to talk about for this video. And for this video, we're actually going to add in Melody of Memory and Fragmentary Passage. But the phone games still won't be making an appearance on this list. With that out of the way, remember to like and subscribe, and with that shameless plug out of the way, let's get started. Makes sense to start with the first game, for our first ever complaint. Now, originally I was going to talk about the gummy ship levels and how they're, well, super boring. But after playing through the game again, the choice actually changed to the target/lock-on system. Now, in every battle you're a part of in Kingdom Hearts, you will obviously try to utilize the lock-on system to deal with the several enemies you're fighting. Makes sense. A lot of attacks hit better when you're locked onto opponents. However, you will come to realize that that system becomes even more of a problem than the actual enemies. For starters, the lock-on and the camera are clearly not that well synced up, as whenever an enemy leaves the screen, the camera just kind of starts freaking out so much, it's actually kind of a wonder players don't get motion sickness from fighting basic-ass enemies. So when you hear this, you think to yourself, well, Crimson, just don't use the lock-on in fights, you dummy. Well, I tried that out too, and I was faced with another problem. When you're not locked onto a singular enemy, the target system picks an enemy to target for you by, we'll just call it enemy magnetism because that word sounds fun. And this magnetism is very frustrating, as it's very confusing and it can target someone right in front of you or right behind you instead. And it is strong, like real strong, and not in a good way, as even when enemies have backed pretty far away from you, the targeting system will stick to said enemy and fuck up your combat synergy, which is vital for an action RPG. This is easily the main thing that I believe makes Kingdom Hearts 1 pretty hard to go back to, and makes me so grateful it was fixed in later games. Enough about that though, let's move on to Chain of Memories. So yeah, I'm guessing some people were expecting me to dedicate this section to the card system as a whole. But I actually really like the card combat in Chain of Memories. It has this fast-paced intensity to it that feels so fucking awesome to master in the late game. But that doesn't mean everything is perfect. And the biggest gameplay flaw to me is actually how the sleights are balanced. I'm not sure if it's sleights or slates, but sleights sounds like sleight of hand, so we're going with that. Now, at the start of the game, sleights are created by using cards of fairly high numbers, sliding dash, and all of that nonsense. And late game sleights are made with lower number cards. A smart idea at first glance, but the more you play, the more you realize sleights are, well, they're pretty unbalanced. Some sleights are pretty good, like Sliding Dash, Strike Raid, and Blitz. But then you have the insanely overpowered ones like Sonic Blade, Reflect Raid, Trinity, or everyone's favorite, Lethal Frame, where you literally just stop time and do damage with no consequence. When you get your hands on those four, especially Lethal Frame like I stated before, every other sleight you learn becomes just pointless due to the fact that they are just worthless in comparison. Hell, even some of the last abilities you learn, like Ars Arkham, never know if I'm pronouncing that right, so don't take me seriously on that, and Ragnarok, are just pitiful in comparison to these bad boys. It honestly kind of kills the interest in ever using any other ability, to be honest, when you can just freeze time, whoop ass in seconds, tear apart the entire room with Sonic Blade, or wipe out everybody with a Trinity. Also, with how low number you need the cards to be for some of your late game stuff, they feel much more arbitrary than intended, especially when everything is just so split second in the final few battles. So yeah, I'm a massive shill for Kingdom Hearts 2. It's my favorite Kingdom Hearts game in the entire franchise, and one of my favorite games of all time. But no matter how much I will simp for this game, I still can't get over how annoying the forced party member system is. Now, unlike in Kingdom Hearts 1, where you could choose if you wanted to have that world-specific character in your party, yeah, 2 kind of gives that little thing the middle finger, and basically puts you in several moments where they straight up force you to use them. Not like it's like the worst mechanic in the world. The limits you unlock with them in your party are pretty devastating and fun to use. And they aren't like the worst party members in history, except for fucking Ping in the Land of Dragons. It's just real irritating that you basically have to kick a party member who you might possibly want to keep in for something like their own specific limit, or the chance to level up one of your drive forms for some forced character they want you to work with solely for a certain section of the level or just one battle. Other than that, 2 doesn't really have any major gameplay problems. Everything else is pretty much a knock out of the park in my eyes. I said I was a shill, didn't I? Why are you surprised that I'm dedicating this section to talking about this? Unlike the next game we're about to talk about, which if you've been a long-time watcher, you will know my problems with. So, I've done more than my fair share of bitching and whining about 358 on this channel, and I've shared time and time again why I dislike it. From its awful level design to its boring-ass mission gameplay, and its several unfun bosses. But nothing bothers me more in that game than the combo keyblade lock system. That sounds stupid, and I just came up with it off the top of my head, but we're rolling for it because goddammit that sounds funny. You see, to me, the best part of Kingdom Hearts is how they take the free flow combat of the games and mold it into something truly unique with each title. Whether it's the fast-paced fluidity of 2 or 3, the slower gameplay of the original mixed with the fast special command system like Recoded Dream Drop or Birth by Sleep, or the split-second card breaking of Chain of Memories. But instead of something like that, 358 forces a style of use this Keyblade combo and just deal with it. It makes combat feel unbelievably stiff and frustrating. I hate that this game just basically staples a combo onto a Keyblade and says, there you go, play with that or you don't get to do anything other than throw some magic at people. There are certainly cool things in the game, don't get me wrong, like the ability to use limits depending on your health bar, or that they tried more Final Fantasy-based debuffs in this game. Hell, even the grid system has some cool ideas, even if it's pretty flawed itself. But the fact that you're stuck with these combos for a Keyblade is the main thing that keeps me from coming back to this game as much as the others. Which is a damn shame since I love the story. But that's for another time. Let's move on to the other DS game. So, fun little fact. I personally view Recoded in the exact opposite way I view 358. I love the gameplay of Recoded, especially with the addition of the command board system, but goddamn, is this story one of the dumbest I've ever witnessed. But where it succeeds in its command board style of combat and unique level design changes, it certainly fails in the final level of the game. So for those who don't know, the final level of Recoded takes place in a data version of Castle Oblivion, where you have to collect cards by traveling through simulations of older worlds you have visited. A concept that doesn't seem bad at first, until you realize it wants you to find 3 different alternate paths for all 6 of the worlds you have visited to unlock it, which results in you going through the worlds 18 times, just to get the basic ass ending. Yeah, this is for the normal ending. This isn't like a secret 100% true ending that'll make your balls explode or something. This is just a vanilla ass finale that you have to unlock by doing the most basic shit in the world. It's like that old game Shadow the Hedgehog, where they made you go through the game, like, what, 15 times from what I remember, just to get the actual ending. I don't understand why games do this. It's so frustrating, it just turns into annoying padding. I could somewhat accept it, hear me, somewhat, if it was for the secret ending. But forcing players to do something so tedious and annoying solely just to unlock the vanilla ending will forever be something I don't agree with. So, for Birth by Sleep, this was actually kind of a hard choice for me, as its combat feels like it's the most thought out and well designed of all of the games next to 2. So it took a bit to pin down what I thought was the weakest gameplay aspect of it all, and my choice is going to have to go with the shotlock system. Now before I continue, I want to state that I don't think it's a terrible mechanic, but it is also a bit on the useless side. Birth by Sleep gives you a lot, and I mean a lot, of various ways to mow down your enemies, From the stepped up command system, which possesses so many powerful abilities that you can become nigh unstoppable by just creating the right ones, to the D-links that grant you special unlocks to increase your gaming experience, to the meld command system, which is a fantastic way to get players to experiment with the fusing mechanic in the game. Shotlock just feels like a plain old do damage ability. Nothing horrible, just not as interesting to use or experiment with as all of the other mechanics they offer you in the game. I personally think Shotlock was at its best in Kingdom Hearts 3, when they retooled it to not only be an attack option, but let you close a far distance with the travel command added to it, which let you increase your combo potential. Honestly, if 3's Shotlock system was in Birth by Sleep, I probably wouldn't have included it, but it doesn't, so I'm just going to have to give it to this spot. Again, I don't hate it, I just find it kind of just a there thing to add. So, Dream Drop is a weird game for me combat-wise. There's a lot I think it did right, but there's also quite a bit I feel it did wrong, and the thing I think it did the worst was the inclusion of the drop mechanic. The drop mechanic was easily one of the dumbest additions to Kingdom Hearts in my eyes. Why on earth are you adding a meter that when it hits 0, forces you to stop playing as one character and play as another? Did they really think players wouldn't swap over to Riku or Sora when they wanted to? They're both beloved characters. It's not like no one's not going to play as them. Besides, Sora and Riku's journeys, from what I recall at least, barely ever interact because they're on fucking sides of the dream worlds. So forcing them to switch holds no meaning other than maybe 2 or 3 scenes in the entire playthrough. You can thankfully refill it with Drop Me Nuts. However, this also creates the problem of having to either give up a spot on your command deck to hold the Drop Me Nuts, or pause the game and use one from the inventory. It's pretty impressive that Square offers you 2 different options, and both are still kind of annoying and tedious to utilize. Also, a fun little thing I learned while working on this video, apparently someone didn't like this mechanic so much, they actually created a mod for Dream Drop where the drop system is just gone. Yeah, it's apparently so hated by some people they would rather just spend their time and energy to make a mod to get rid of it. Gotta admit, I actually found that pretty funny. Okay, so I'm not going to super focus on this one, considering Fragmentary is more or less kind of like a tech demo showing off what they were going to do with Kingdom Hearts 3 in terms of graphics and, to an extent, their gameplay mechanics. But I will admit I did kind of have a problem with how Fragmentary only gives you one combo to use throughout the entire playthrough. While it may seem like a minor problem, considering the game is like 3 to 5 hours long, it really starts showing once you start hunting for all the objectives, as several are dedicated to fighting enemies and leveling up. The more you do it, the more you start to really feel how empty the combat is. It's not horrid, but it is pretty boring. I wish that they could have at least let you unlock a few new moves throughout your playthrough, other than just the Wayfinder style change you get. Really could have helped this game be more than just a minor tech demo. Hell, for comparison, Astro's Playroom feels like an actual game, even though it's just a tech demo. Just wished Fragmentary got that kind of treatment by its creators. Yeah, this was a no-brainer pick, if I'm honest. Before I begin tearing these apart, I do want to say I think the idea of attractions are actually pretty cool. And they are definitely one of the things that interested me the most before 3 came out. But man, oh man, did they implement them poorly. The first problem was how shoved down your throat they were. You basically see them in so many fights, you just start getting sick of them and just start doing whatever you can not to use them whatsoever. Second is how broken they were. If you used even one of them, even some of the weaker ones, they would still be strong enough to completely wipe out the entire room of enemies in mere seconds. And lastly, there was no downside to using them. Unlike something like the limits, which emptied your MP gauge, or the shotlocks, which depleted the shot gauge, attractions held no consequence whatsoever to using them. They made fights completely arbitrary instead of an actual test of your skill. Hell, fixing them actually has such a simple solution. Just turn them into the summon mechanic instead of the Disney summons we got. It would give an active reason for being in the game, and sacrificing your MP in exchange for a powerful attraction feels like a great trade-off. Hell, the devs themselves realized how annoying they are. Why do you think they added in a chance to turn them off if you so wished? So, when I first ever played Melody of Memory, I didn't really know how to judge it, considering I'm not too accustomed to how rhythm games work. It was probably one of the first ever times I had even played a rhythm game. However, now that I've played a few more outside of Melody, I think I've finally pinpointed its biggest weakness. And that comes down to the fact your attack buttons are kind of pointlessly mapped. What do I mean by this? Well, in Melody of Memory, you have attack buttons mapped to the X, L1, and R1 button. But they aren't mapped in the form of Donald, Goofy, and Sora each having one. It's just whatever one you press leads to one of them unleashing an attack. Short story long, it kind of misses the point of a rhythm game. There are more buttons to press, don't get the wrong idea, but in a rhythm game, its biggest pull is utilizing several buttons on either the controller or keyboard, whichever you're playing on, I don't judge. It would have been a lot better if your teammates had buttons mapped to their own attacks, but they don't. And as a result, you can get through several levels only relying on X to attack. Thankfully, there are moments where you have to use multi-attacks to defeat more than one enemy, and this does require you to press more than X, sometimes even requiring the other buttons circle and triangle. And in boss fights, they do utilize more things, which is nice, but 70% of the time it's just kind of smacking X and killing all the enemies. I will state, though, that I don't think it makes Melody of Memory a bad game. It just really didn't get what was fun about rhythm gameplay, in my personal opinion at least. And with that done, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you like this content, remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you all next week with another Persona video. Until then, have a good day.